Today's guest is Bryan Kerr. He's the co-founder of GetFill. Bryan, thank you for coming on the show.
Tats, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's good. You have a new company. You've been in the area of design and marketing for a while, so topics that I love. So I'm excited to dig in.
Sure. Yeah, happy to talk about what we've been working on. And yeah, if you want to stray off into design and marketing theory or have some fun, I'm open for that too.
Sure, sure. We'll start off. I mean, originally your background was in, I guess, graphical design.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm a classically trained designer. So I worked with, I went to art school. I really did take sculpture and oil painting and all the classic disciplines and hand set lead type and hand cut, color blocking and layouts and some pre-computer stuff. And even the computer software that I learned on like Quark Express and like very old school before the Adobe days would date me. Even within my generation, I think I started quite early in design.
Sure. I mean, and I guess an early company was a video game company.
Yeah, out of high school, I actually was able to get a co-op placement, which turned into a full-time job at Rockstar Games. It was their first ever co-op placement. I called their creative director every day for about a month until they finally caved in and had me come in. But that really did jumpstart my career. I thought I wanted to work in video games, and this was right when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out. So I was that kid in high school that like I would get introduced at house parties. They would say, "Do you know where this guy works? He works at Rockstar Games. This is crazy." But then honestly, that really did propel me. So I was able to kind of skip the, McDonald's jobs and grocery store jobs, and I got right into my career at 17 essentially. So that
Yeah,
was
I
pretty
mean,
wild.
yeah. I mean, so you're calling every single day. I mean, is it the same
Oh yeah.
conversation? Are you trying to keep it interesting? I always wonder those campaigns when you're just calling every day and say,
I,
"Hey,
I
it's me again. What do you got?"
it wasn't very like I wasn't like some smooth sales guy. It was like crackly voice, 16-year-old, 17-year-old being like, "Hello." And I think the first phone call was like, "Is this Rockstar Games?" Like the Rockstar Games. And they're like, "Yes, it is." And I'm like, click, hang up. And then that progressed all the way to, "Yeah, sir, I work on a mod team for Half-Life and I love video games so much. And can you check out my website?" And I sent them my website. And I think that was what sealed the deal is they basically saw the kind of work I was doing for fun and that kind of got me my foot the rest of the way in the door.
I
So
mean, what was it your love for? I mean, the Rockstar was a very big name
oh yeah.
back then.
Yeah,
But
back
was
then, not
it?
so much. This was like right when Grand Theft Auto 3 had come out.
Got it.
So, this wasn't the Rockstar of today. I mean, it is, but it was a little earlier on. So, and it's not like I wasn't working on Grand Theft Auto 3. I was working on the Warriors video game, but which has actually made a comeback. I think Lin-Manuel Miranda just released an album about the Warriors and his love for the Warriors. So, turns out that was a cult, a classic to continue. So
Hey,
yeah,
were there stuff earlier that kind of showed your persistence, or is it just this is the first thing that you really wanted and willing to sort of keep at it?
it was really my mom and dad, and they both worked had really good tech jobs. My mom worked at IBM and my dad worked at Nortel, and they basically said, "Hey, if this is a somewhere you would want to work, like don't take no for an answer. Like there are no rules, basically. Just like what's the worst that could happen? You're that annoying kid that keeps calling, or they might let you in." So, I think that was one of the lessons I learned very on is like there really are no rules. And you can just kind of bully your way into a co-op program. So
Yeah, I mean, since then you worked at some very well-known marketing firms,
mhm.
advertising firms as well.
Yep.
What were those experiences like?
I almost made lightning strike twice a little bit when I was in college, like when I was in art school. My uncle was working for a huge advertising agency, J. Walter Thompson, and he was the guy that basically said, "Hey, I think my nephew can, build us a website for $500, kind of thing." And I was that nephew, And I built them a website for an award submission, and it ended up winning a marketing magazine award. And so here I am in like my final year of art school. I haven't even graduated yet, and I just won a marketing magazine award. And and I didn't really know what that meant, and then but like literally, I graduated from art school, and J. Walter Thompson moved me and my girlfriend to Toronto, basically from Barrie, and I was like right out of school, art director at J. Walter Thompson, which was pretty wild. And so I worked there on some great clients like HSBC and Tim Hortons, and J. Walter Thompson sort of invented the whole concept of full service advertising, and like they worked on like Diamond is Forever and like these incredible campaigns, right? So
Yeah.
that was a big learning for me, was um, you know, this is really powerful technology that not a lot of companies understand, is how like really strong brand marketing works. And um and I think that's sort of what I've carried with me even into the work I'm doing today. Making very specific brand choices has a huge impact down the line.
Yeah. I mean, to go with your concept of there are no rules, how did you end up in construction?
So this is a funny story. So after I worked I did sort of the alphabet soup of ad agencies for 15 years or so. I started my own design consultancy, and then I had some great clients. I built an app that was acquired, and I was sort of trying to figure out what to do after I just sold this banking app that I had worked on. And I had this Dragon's Den weekend planned at my cottage, and I invited a handful of guys, and I said, "Hey, everybody, bring a 5-page pitch deck to this weekend, and obviously it's going to be a fun party, but also we're going to pick what's the next thing that we should build." And one of the guys I invited, he had just started dating my sister, and so he said, "This is the greatest thing I've ever heard. Okay, I'll come up with an idea." And then a week later, he called me and said, "Hey, I actually think that this idea I have is so good that you should cancel your entire Dragon's Den weekend." So we still had the party, but we canceled the pitch portion of the party. But this was the idea he had. His family owns quite a large construction business in Ontario, and he explained to me how dirt moves in Ontario, and even just in general, construction materials, excess materials. The fact that not very much has changed in about 100 years in haulage and in this space, and even in using payment tooling, which I just finished selling a payments business. I was kind of blown away the fact that how much cash still trades hands, how much unsecured credit and promissory tools. So it kind of blew me away, and so I thought, okay, there is this enormous business opportunity and design opportunity that could take place in this industry. It needs a big cleanup. There's a lot of bad actors. It needs a lot of sunlight to kind of help this industry comply with these regulations that they're getting hit with. And we can get into what that looks like in Ontario, but it's you know compliance is really challenging for a lot of these businesses, and they don't really adopt a lot of software. So how do you make here's the design challenge, right? And the rule breaking, theme that we're coming back to. How do you make software for people who don't want software? And how do you make it simple and fun, easy enough and rewarding enough that they just start using it effortlessly and then get sort of hooked, and then it becomes part of their business. It's a huge challenge for this space. So
Yeah. So what's the particular thing that you said dirt and moving dirt and unsecured credit and stuff like that?
yeah, so I mean, what a lot of people don't understand, and I certainly didn't understand, is almost every construction project has the wrong amount of dirt. And it's like I kind of let that air out for a second. It's like every condo project, every residential housing development, every gas station, everything. They
What's
have
the challenge
they
of
have
estimating the right amount of
they have
dirt?
they have too much or not enough, right? So um I spoke to a retired engineer who worked at Mattamy, and he said that at Mattamy, which is one for people who don't know, it's one of the largest residential home builders in certainly I think North America. They had a rule with all of their engineers that they had to be balanced at the end. So all of the landscaping that they had to do to the property, all the basements they have to dig out, they're not allowed to send a truckload of dirt off the property or bring any in. So, when you're driving past a development and you're like, oh, they have a beautiful pond in the front acreage of that housing development, or they have this giant dirt berm around the outside. It's like, oh, that's what they did with the dirt. You know, like it's just such a huge problem that so many companies throw their hands in the air and they're just like, we don't want to even deal with this. Like, just figure it out,
What,
engineers.
so I understand this the shortage part where you don't estimate correctly, you need more dirt. But what's
Yeah.
the challenge of moving the dirt that's excess off the property?
Contamination. So even in a residential area, you would not believe the levels of contamination that you find in dirt. I live in a residential area in the west end of Toronto. All of our dirt is not just contaminated. It's probably like it's getting close to like even in one table up. So it's not just road salt. It's like radon and all and PFAS. Like you wouldn't believe this stuff. I bought my daughter a metal detector, and we were just using it in the backyard, and the amount of lead that we pulled up out of the backyard is truly shocking for a residential area. So
Got
that
it.
is the number one issue is contamination. That's why the government is involved. That's why there's really challenging regulations that get tighter and tighter every year. It's because in Ontario, at least, every major city, every town is generating this huge waterfall of contaminated dirt, and it has to go somewhere. And usually it goes about 65 kilometers outside of the city to historically landfills, which is not a great place for it to go either. But they just it's a big sticky mess, essentially. And it's about 15% of every project's budget is the dirt disposal. So it's a big, expensive, contaminated mess.
Got it. Now, how does this reuse stuff come in with what you're doing? Is there a portion of it that's reusable?
Yes.
Um, okay.
Yeah. So you need an engineer to help you determine all of this, reuse and like exemption status for your project. But the very simplified version is if your soil tests similarly to a soil, or to the soil of your receiving site, you could, if you were that condo project, get matched with a project that's not 65 kilometers away, that's 5 kilometers away. And so you could dig the dirt out of the parking garage in Etobicoke and then drive it 10 kilometers, to Mississauga or near the airport or something. And then you could receive that dirt at a nearby site because the contamination is comparable. So that's the holy grail is you find a project like that because going from a 65 kilometers to even 50 kilometers or 30 is millions of dollars of savings,
Got it.
and vehicle wear and tear, diesel, carbon emissions. It's this huge savings, and we can talk
So
about what sort of savings levels we're seeing.
So not necessarily if the soil is clean or not, but if you said the contamination level of it,
Acceptable.
and it's all relative, but is
Yeah.
is the same as somewhere else, then you have the ability to move material around and it's
Exactly.
worth it for both sides because to get the brand new soil or soil from somewhere, it's just the logistics of moving and the costs are very high to get the new stuff.
It's so expensive. And the uh yeah, that's it really just is distance is everything. And the province, the municipalities, they want local reuse as well. So like smartly, they are incentivizing people to do that because they don't want the dirt going into landfills. So the landfills are it's a ticking there's a website out there, I forget the name of it, that actually is got this ticker, this countdown of when the landfills will be full in Ontario, and it doesn't make sense to fill them up with dirt that can be reused nearby. So it, yeah, local reuse is really really important. The other thing that's about to happen in Ontario, and they've already started applying a little bit of pressure here. It's not just going to be soils; it's going to be crushed concrete and recycled aggregate as well. So if you crush a building in downtown Toronto, you are going to have to make a reasonable effort to find a nearby home for that crushed material because there's no reason you can't use that crushed material in the foundation of a new building that's coming up, or to do landscaping. So,
Got it. And then when it goes, the soil or concrete goes to the landfill, it gets all mixed up. So essentially you can't evaluate it to be a comparable, candidate to move around. So you're trying to
yep,
intercept it before it does in a marketplace where people can kind of see what the availability
that's
on
right.
this is. Okay.
And the big brain regions, like Guelph, and if I could call out some municipalities, like they're creating what are like soil banks. So they actually have this. You'll see them driving down the highway, these giant mountains of dirt. So certain municipalities have actually begun banking their soil. So they have this like growing, this living stockpile of material that they control, and it's actually worth a fortune. So if you're a huge earth mover and you say, okay, I'm Dufferin Construction and I need 5,000 loads of dirt for this project,
Yeah.
the fact that you could draw from that municipal bank of material, that's like major cha-ching for the municipality, right?
I'm trying to visualize these fields, right? Like,
It's
these
crazy.
like big ant hills everywhere
Oh yeah.
of material.
We did an AI image. I'll share it with you of so there's this stat that 25 million cubic meters, or sorry, 25 million cubic meters of dirt is excavated in downtown Toronto every year. So we got AI to generate what a pile of 25 cubic meters looks like in downtown Toronto, and it's 16 times the Sky Dome. So it's this enormous pile of dirt right in downtown Toronto, and people have no idea how much dirt is actually being pulled out of the ground and needs a home. It's such a huge problem, and it might actually be even be much larger than 25 million cubic meters. Um, there is quite a visibility problem into how much is truly being generated in Ontario.
It's your business is very interesting because it capitalizes on regulations and logistics
Yep.
and all that stuff. You talked about expansion. I mean, do these laws sort of function in similar ways in other jurisdictions, or there's regional differences?
There's quite a few regional differences. So when you use our app and you create a listing in Ontario, we automatically tailor the materials sets and the different exemptions, and everything you need to provide to be compliant um, is automatically at your fingertips, for your Ontario listing. If you were to create a listing in British Columbia, we give you a generic set of materials that are not Ontario specific. Likewise with the United States, if you're in Ohio, you create a listing, it's going to be a generic set of materials. Um, as we launch state by state and province by province, it will automatically update. So the next time you create a listing in that region, it will have the compliance fields that are necessary for your region. But Ontario really is the tip of the spear here. Like we have probably the toughest soil compliance in the eastern side of North America. I would think. But that British Columbia is about to, or is in the middle of launching their own soil regulations. Likewise, south of the border. So I know places like California, it's very tough. Texas, even like a lot of U.S. states are bracing for soil regulations to come.
Yeah.
So you're talking about paper businesses who are all of a sudden going to be having to use somewhat complicated traceability tools as a core part of their business. Every load of dirt coming and going has to have this digital twin or this tracked load, and that's really where we're at is how do we make it very easy for these companies to go from paper to digital from 0 to 1.
Got it. And then I guess, looking at the, like you said, if you're going to the States, picking a jurisdiction that, has those regulations that are most
Hmm.
favorable or conditions that are most favorable for you, and then, focusing on that because,
That's
obviously
part of it.
I mean, sort of the critical mass is required, right? Because you need a bunch of businesses using it. You need people to list their inventory
Yep.
as well. So I guess that would be kind of the pacing, right? You need to kind of
Yep.
like saturate a certain market to a certain extent that people are seeing this as a resource with the number of listings.
I'm glad you brought this up because this is really our biggest accomplishment is when you're starting a marketplace, and we're a pure marketplace, right? We connect people who have too much dirt with not enough. Um, uh, that is what's called the cold start dilemma. So if you're Airbnb, how do you get people renting their homes and being hosts on day one? It's an extremely challenging problem to solve. We have a very good solution for that, and it has worked in Ontario. Just the fact that it worked at all is huge in the terms of a pure marketplace. So we have like this sort of 10-step formula that we're ready to apply state by state, province by province, and we
Nice.
know exactly how to defeat the cold start dilemma or overcome the cold start dilemma. That's really what makes us unique because there are other soil marketplaces who have tried this and failed, and they didn't do what we have done, and we have like a very unique approach, which is kind of our secret sauce a little bit. But suffice it to say that we have that is our entire business is how do you overcome that cold start dilemma and get that critical mass like you said. And it is because in Ontario it's you have the regulations plus you have obviously the soil industry stuff, right? um in even in regions like that don't have the kind of stringent regulations, they do know that it's coming, right? That one day it will arrive, but the soil industry inefficiencies are enough that you want to use this anyways. So we had guys in Utah create listings and they said, I can't believe they don't have an app like this here. This is incredible. If you're even at the end of the day, if you're only finding a site that's closer or getting visibility into this marketplace, that is just such a huge win. Imagine trying to sell your house without MLS, right? That's how people are running their sites right now. They're totally blind to where everybody's sites are. They have no visibility, right? So you're hiring a real estate agent to sell your house without having any software to use on your own, without having no visibility
Yeah.
into where any sites are or
Yeah, I
houses
mean,
are.
it sounds like you're competing against a really bad option that in which
Yeah.
any sort of additional visibility is helpful and to a point
Hmm.
where you can enlist the help of the people that have these piles to do the lobbying to get you going
Yeah.
because, they have a problem that's costing them money every day.
Oh yeah. We're competing against their guy. So somebody has a construction project and they say, hey, we need to make 50,000 loads of dirt disappear. I'm going to call my guy. And don't worry, everybody. My guy is compliant and he's a straight shooter. I've known him for 20 years or whatever. And it's just, you have no idea where this dirt is going. And you say, okay, how much is this guy charging? I don't know. But probably he's charging us probably between 10 and 20% interest or 20% take on the cost of this project. And like, who wants to do business like that? That
Yeah.
no one wants to work with those people. That's such a liability. And so that's why the app is called Phil, like the man's name, Phil, is because we're replacing your guy, right? Instead
Yeah.
of
The
using
so the
the
soil
old guy.
fixer.
Yes, that's really it. Instead of using a soil fixer, there's a lot worse names that they call them. They call them dirt pimps, or that's one of the most common used names is dirt pimp, and they hate these guys. So they you know we have like they do use the product as well, like so they are on the map. We have made a platform for the best versions of these people to exist and to do business. And at the end of the day, if they're doing it out in the sunlight, then that's great. We've taken it from a black market into a gray market. We've added a lot of sunlight here and compliance. Um, and it's there's still a lot of work to do for sure. But if everyone can do this mindset shift of just saying, hey, instead of doing it like this, let's just go to this free open marketplace. We can just create a listing 6 months in advance. Let's just do a listing a couple months in advance instead of running around with our hair on fire on the week that we need to find 20,000 loads of dirt or get rid of it or whatever. Let's just put it in advance. We'll get matched. We'll like take our time, find the right person to work with, and then we can have this sort of smooth and open process instead of what is going on a lot today, which we get the emails that says forward. Oh my gosh, I need this much dirt right now in this area. It's like, how does this happen?
All right. Well, since you're a brandy guy, let's talk about brand considerations. So get Phil, Phil, I
Sure.
get that. That's just very
Yep.
visual.
Yep.
I see a red and white logo. I mean, what sort of
hmm
things did you consider when sort of setting yourself up on the branding side?
Yeah, so we have a lot of sort of plans for automation in the future, but we didn't want to call this an AI. We just wanted it to be like a virtual broker or virtual assistant. Like this is a digital version of this very human process that you've been using. So the way Phil speaks to you is very casual. Um, because a lot of other software in this field it feels very enterprise software. Like, oh, this is a suite of a productivity suite or operating system for your business, and we do all of those things, but we package it in a very approachable way, and we make it fun. When we launched, we gave away a pint of beer to every new user who signed up on the platform at our launch event. So we had this hologram of Phil who was in the booth, and people came and signed up with their business, and they got a pint of beer, and it was this very fun sort of casual conversation that got started with every new sign up. And it's very different than the way that a lot of people sell software in this space. So you
So
yeah.
explain the pint of beer. This was at a physical event?
Yep, this was at the heavy equipment show at the International Center. So the International Center has two bars historically. And we worked with them to open a third bar in our booth. And so they ran all of the alcohol and it was all heavily supervised, and they definitely charged us for it. And but it was a unique kind of experience we wanted to have, where it was like this booth you could actually come by and sign up for this free tool and get a beer and hang out and watch a demo. And um it's a very different experience that we wanted to create. But when you look at the logo, it kind of looks like a man's or like a person's work patch for a shirt, or it's just like it's a more casual, laid back approach. And we have the character as well, Phil, the cartoon. So he's our sort of our Tony the Tiger kind of person. And when you use the app, you're going to be seeing him more and more having a conversation, helping you either with compliance. So like if you create a listing that has no compliance fields added, you don't have a dirt report, you don't know what the status of your site is, Phil can come in and say, "Hey, would you like me to connect you with a local engineer to help you, make sense of all this stuff?" So having him sort of pop in and out and have a relationship with him is going to happen a lot more next year as well. Very, very conversationally.
Yeah, very cool. What's the revenue side of it look?
We're totally ad supported right now. Starting next year, we're going to have a pro version. So all of the current features in the app, so the marketplace where you can browse listings, you can create listings, chat with users, you can track your trucks. You can tracking your trucks for free is a very unique thing as well. We're the only free tracking tool that's out there. All of that will remain free forever, and that's always been in all of our messaging. It would be impossible for us to go back and unwind all of that messaging. And I'm saying it right now on this podcast as well. But so yeah, next year we will be all of the new features we release will be bundled under this pro tier. So to register your business, to get that green check mark, to register your sites and that they are compliant and that they contain all the required information, sites that have verified soil listings that have been added. There's this big verification as a service push that we'll be doing. There is and then a lot of promotional tools. So instead of just having a green pin as your listing on the map, you can get your company logo in there. You can have your listing featured in promoted listings. There's a lot of just like Kijiji style marketplace things that will be added to the pro tier as well. So, but for the last 2 years, we've been just ad supported, and we have a couple pretty great advertisers on there right now. That scales up very well. It doesn't work for just a single market like Ontario. It's enough to keep the lights on and cover all of our hard costs and things, but um, for us to scale up into another state, another province, that's really where the ad-supported model really shines because our level of effort to launch the product in a new region is very low. And then that's just an entirely new advertising market that just gets booted up overnight. So that's where we're at today.
Cool. Yeah, so for people that are listening to it, trying to understand if they as a company are doing a good job with their branding,
Yep.
what questions or things should they focus on as an indicator?
That's a great question. What should they focus on, like for their branding? So branding
Yeah,
is a lot more than just your logo, right? That's the first thing that a lot of people don't understand about branding is they think, oh, I need the logo. As soon as I'm done this logo, then I'll have a brand, and then my job is done, which is actually really not the case. A brand is like a container. So it's this sort of character. It's easy for me with my product because we literally made a character, but all brands are essentially a character that you're trying to sort of bring to life. And so it's helpful to think about if my brand or my character was a person, who would they be? So for us, it was John Hamm. That was sort of the inspiration for Phil. It's like, okay, we have this guy, good looking dude, great voice, is funny. And we're like, that's the exact personality of what we want for our brand. And so I'm not even thinking about the logo. I'm not even thinking about the colors or anything at this point. I'm just thinking, if it was a person, who would it be? Right. And then you can kind of just start adding thoughts there and filling up this container. And then when you get to the stage of actually producing your actual collateral and your assets and your brand identity package, then you have like a really strong foundation. But I think one of the most useful tools, honestly, that I just tell everyone to go watch is this Simon Sinek golden circle exercise. Finding your why, how, and what. Finding your why is really the main exercise. Go on YouTube, search Simon Sinek golden circle. It's a simple, misleadingly simple exercise. It's going to take you a week to do it. But finding out why you exist is really important. And companies that I would have said in the past who have a very good why have actually kind of lost their why. So I used to use Apple as an example for branding back in the day. I no longer use Apple as an example. I don't think that they know what they're doing anymore. I think the pirates sort of became the Navy. And there are a lot of incredible brands out there that, say what you will about Elon Musk. Every time he goes on stage, he says his why for his companies, whether it's Tesla or SpaceX or whatever. When you look at the SpaceX example, it's, why does SpaceX exist? It's to make life multiplanetary. I want Star Trek. I want humans to be out there in space. How do we do that? We do that by lowering the cost to move materials into orbit. We have to reduce that by an order of magnitude, or it's never going to happen. You know, what is it? What? Yeah, the what. What do we do? We make reusable rockets. We can land a rocket, refuel it, and send it back up the same day. That's a totally new paradigm in this space, right? That's super crispy clean. Why, how, and what, and that's the gold standard as far as I'm concerned, for every company who's thinking about their branding right now. And yeah, not everybody's running SpaceX, but you can find a really interesting why in any business, and that's a really fun exercise to go through.
Very nice. I love the example. Brian, I mean, is there anything I haven't asked you but you wanted to share?
Um, we didn't talk too much about like what the app actually is, like physically in your hand, like
Absolutely.
what is
Give
the
me
actual
the
product?
lowdown experience.
Sure, yeah. So, Phil is an app. It's a free app. And above all, it's a marketplace. So you visit the website, www.getphil.app, or you go to the App Store. We're in both iPhone and Android. And the first thing you see, it's just a big map space. So if we're not in your region yet, I apologize. But nothing to stop you from creating a listing and being the first. By all means, create your listing and see what happens. But if you zoom to Ontario, if you're not there already, you'll see we have a lot of listings in this space. And all of these listings are people who have too much material or not enough. So it's dirt or it's concrete or it's asphalt. And they can create listings every morning at 7 a.m. They get matched with each other, just like MLS. And then once they get matched, they can make deals. So we have a chat system that's built in and an offer system, just like Facebook Marketplace. And then once you have an offer in place, you can track your trucks. In Ontario, by law, every load of soil needs to be tracked. Some people are still using paper. We're a much better alternative to tracking using carbon paper. And that's a free service that we offer as well. So why is it free? Why do we offer a free tracking service? It's to overcome a very challenging problem in marketplace design, which is called leakage. So if you and all of your other companies in an area create listings and get introduced to each other, how do we keep you coming back every day to the app? To create that stickiness that we're looking for, it's through the tracking. So by coming into the app every day to send and receive trucks and create traceability and compliance reports, that's an opportunity to create more listings in the marketplace and continue to match with each other. So and again, it's like I said, it's a completely free service, and we close the loop on dirt management from start to finish.